This is the compensation board gathering for 2024. It is public hearing. We're in City County Building 309, and it is 11 a.m. on June 24th. We'll go around and get a roll call here from the internal table here, and the folks that are part of the board, and then we'll go around the outside as well and just make sure we have a record of who's attending our meeting. So my name is Andy Hunthausen, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners. We'll go this way.
I'm Ken Spain, Vice Chair of County Commissioners.
Roger Baltz, County Administrative Officer.
Katrina Cheney, County Superintendent.
Carrie DeRozier, Human Resources Director.
Angie Sparks, Clerk of District Court.
Shauna Helford, the public member.
Kevin Downs, County Attorney's Office.
Amy Reeves, Treasurer, Clerk Recorder.
Tom Rolfe, Commissioner.
Nadine McCarty, County Commission Admin Assistant.
Lisa Callio with the Clerk of District Court.
Nico Hash, County Attorney's Office.
So welcome to everyone. This is an annual meeting where we set the we work to set the salaries for the elected officials, county elected officials, and Carrie DeRozier will lead us through that process. She has it down, and I don't know if we want to do any other preamble about this or where we are, what our story is here, Carrie. If there's anything else you might find to talk about, or if not,
I was just planning to introduce the proposed salaries for the elected officials. The makeup of the compensation board is set in Montana State Statute, Title 7, Chapter 4, 2503 is this big statute. So if there's any questions about that, we can address that. But
I might just make mention about that membership. It's the 3 county commissioners, county attorney is required to be on, and 3 other elected officials, and at least 2 members of the public. And today we have 2 members of the public on the board, 1 not here, so we do have a form of the board, and we'll move forward.
all right.
Back to you, Karen. Sorry for your interruption. It'll probably happen 2 or 3 more times. So I can go right ahead.
So as you can see on the sheet that I handed out, I can just go over the columns, but the proposal is to increase the salary for the elected officials the same as what the budget was built on for the employees across the board. We started with the base salary for the current fiscal year, which you can see in that first column, where the salary numbers start and what the new fiscal year 25 base salary amount would be with the 3.5% added into that. And then any statutory additions per position and what that total of base salary would be with additions, and then the longevity for each elected official member and the total salary. The 3.5% was the number basically that finance Frank Cornwell
We do call them finance.
had calculated, starting with the national CPI number, I think was at 4% from January to January. After looking at it, I think it was decided that number was probably not achievable in our budget this year across the board, so went with the 3.5%, and that's what all budgets across the board were built on, including all the other items as far as benefits and that.
So just a note on that, since I've been here, and this is my 18th round on this for this board, we have done that annual. It's been our tradition essentially to propose the same increase that all of the county staff is taking. So we're doing that on the whole less than what the other members of our great team are receiving in terms of cost of living.
Mr. Chair, that's correct. In the 19 years I've been here, there's never been a time where the elected official salary increase has been different than what the employee base increase would have been.
Thank you.
Anybody has any questions on the sheet?
Any questions for Carrie?
What, Mr. Chairman, Carrie, do you know what the average rate increase is for all the other counties? Does Mako tell you that, or do you guys got that through Mako?
They vary. I don't have all the numbers across the board. They're hovering between 3, 2, and 4, I think. Obviously, the state's implementing a 4% this year, which was decided last year.
If you don't mind, if I add to that,
Please.
Chair. I'm seeing a lot of the treasurers send a lot of things out, so they're questioning the increases. There are some counties that are doing $1 straight across the board for all their employees. I've seen, I think, $1.50 on some counties. So some of them are percentages, some are just a flat dollar amount. Although our matrix that we run doesn't really quite work probably with just doing a flat dollar amount. It's based off of, Carrie can tell you, it's based off of the average or something. for
Yeah,
all the
our
employees.
pay matrix is a percentage between steps.
In just to get a little background on the history here. So as far back as November, maybe even further, but November, we start thinking about the next year and what that cost of living might be for the next budget year, which starts July 1. And so we start informing our department heads and officers, elected offices, what they might estimate for starting to build their budgets around what cost of living will be. And then I think it's in December or January that the actual cost of living numbers come out. Maybe I'm off on that a little bit, Carrie, but they come out and there's a nationwide cost of living number and then there's a region one. And so we try to best we can meet the cost of living increases for our employees. That's where we start with that. Sometimes it's doable, but in the last few years with inflation rates, we haven't been able to quite do that. It's just too much of a leap. So we've done, last year we did 4%, this year 3.5%. And that was what we felt like we could afford in inflationary increases that we had. So that's kind of where it comes from. And so all of our departments then and offices build their budgets around that, kind of those assumptions. And we have our budget presentations and all of that. And then if things look good, we move forward. Preliminarily, we still haven't had our official budget approval meetings yet, which one on Thursday for a preliminary budget hearing. But and then this board normally will take on that same assumption and look at what will increases be, assuming that we take the same cost of living increases. So that's just the history. Of course, can do whatever, but that's what we've done in the past. So, any other questions?
Question I might ask, since you're representing the public, but do you have a perception of what people think about salary increases?
I think I can tell you my own. I was a state employee for 30 years, and I believe that all governmental employees don't get paid enough. I mean, we deal with a lot of BS, and I appreciate those that stay around because you can go to the public sector and earn way more. So thanks to all of you for doing the good job that you do, because I know it's tough. And I also am very thankful for the public employees, not just the elected officials, but the public employees. And I don't think that, especially the lower wage employees, I don't think they get enough. And sometimes I worry about that 3.5% not being enough for them, especially the lower wage, because obviously that percentage is much lower. I appreciate the fact that some counties give them maybe a flat rate and that there's more of a, so it equalizes it a little bit for those lower level employees, because quite frankly, those are the ones that we need them around. I see that when you go to get your car registration done, how many, the public is just horrible to some of those clerks, and I just feel rotten about it. And I think, these this lady showed up for work today. Be thankful and be gracious that she showed up, right? And anyways, okay, so I'm off that tyrant. So, but go back to your question, I do. In the public, you hear a lot of negativity about it. The increase that, why in the world is everybody get 3% if I don't get 3%? Well, most people do get at least that, so. I don't know if that answered your question. Personally, I think this is the right thing, if not, should be more, but.
I think having worked in government, you have a better understanding of what goes on.
Sure.
And what happens to some of our employees that are not treated well. And one of the things that just seems very important to me that I think was being worked on before I got here was keeping people around that have experience in some of these highly specialized jobs. It's very important to be able to encourage them because there are several of these jobs that we have to deal with that it may people take someone 2 or 3 years to be able to become proficient. So training is very expensive. People can tell people with that experience.
And losing employees is very expensive because you just invested in them for a year and you don't pay them well, they leave. You just lost a whole lot of it's very costly.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments?
I would like to comment regarding I was a private practice attorney for 30 years. So this is a whole new world for me. One of the things I hadn't thought about was the importance of making a job with Lewis and Clark County competitive as we can to pay as much because the state reaches in and plucks away our best and not, but even out in the private world. But so these increases are important because if we don't pay people enough, the good people leave us. And for example, I was going through the DMV hallway the other day and people are pounding on. I always stop and visit and remind them that these people are the sons, daughters, husbands, wives of our neighbors and us, and sometimes they have a sick kid and Junior's throwing up. We don't want them to have to come in. And then I was visiting with Amy about why all those windows are open. We had 3 people quit in last.
I was during
Just-
elections.
And so, and those people are trained, so now they've got to not only keep up with the ongoing stuff, but they've got to retrain, and it is very technical, all that work down there. It's scary, so it's important that we talk to our friends and neighbors about, please be patient, they're doing the best they can. If you've got ideas on how we can make it easier, fine, but, and everybody is complaining about property taxes. We do not want to raise those property taxes. Everybody here pays property taxes, just like people pounding on the table, but we get the services. I mean, people expect to have their roads plowed and their everything humming along. So that's enough from me. It should be.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair.
Amy?
The other thing I see is I do have a lot of staff that are clerk level staff, so the pay is not straight. But we have a lot of young families or young mothers that are, employed at some point in time in my staff that can't afford daycare. Daycare costs are really high. And of course, most of my staff are also renters, they're not homeowners, so they're being hit by the inflation pretty hard. So I know 3.5 is what we're looking at, and I just know that there's going to have to be a better solution in the long run for that area. We're just going to have to figure out something. I don't know what it is. I don't know what we can do. There's been talk of like St. Peter's having their own like daycare specifically there, you can get problems with daycares closing, things like that. So hopefully we'll be able to figure out something to help those people that are in those. I have one that makes, I think, like $30 more than the assistant level for daycare. So they're just at that. They probably got decent benefit, now they can't get any. It's just very hard to keep.
It is really challenging, and, you know, we're not, just for discussion purposes, we're not keeping wages low just to keep them low. I think what we do, and Carrie can speak to this, but we do a market survey, and we've been actually done that annually the last couple of years. And so we look at those positions and their duties and all the different factors that go into it, and compare them with other counties and other like positions in our county as well, and try and set the wage that way. So it's really challenging that that's where we have wages set now. It's kind of even on the upper end of where that market survey has, am I correct? And so if we're going to affect that wage for clerks, for example, then it might be one of those things you have to do across the board, across the county family, which has significant implications to the budget. I'm not saying doing that, but it may be something to study, and how we would pull that off in the future, because, and as we've discussed here, people that the frontline folks are for our own organization are having difficulty with childcare, rent, everything else that folks at the lower end of the wage scale have. It's concerning to me as well, but we also have a responsibility to the taxpayer. So it's one of these hard things, this balancing act to try and so anyway, back to the issue at hand, and that is the matrix adjustment for FY 2025 for elected officials. Proposal is a 3.5% increase, somewhere same as all of the other county staff. Is there any further discussion about that? Any further discussion about that? You're a board member here, so I'm not talking to you on this one, but any public comment? It's not any public comment. Any public comment? Okay, with that, one of our board members like to make a motion to approve the 3.5% increase as presented by HR.
I'll make the motion to approve the 3.5%.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the 3.5% increase. Yes. Commissioner Payne gets a second. Just make sure she gets that down. As presented, further discussion. Any further discussion? I just want to say I really appreciate everyone participating in this. It's challenging. It's kind of it's also a weird animal in the way we do this in the law. It's been created long before we got here, but we're a part of approving our own salaries and then public included. But it is important to get together and talk about it. Carrie, I really appreciate the work you've done on this, bringing us together, and we shall move on. I thank you all. From my perspective, you all are very much worth it, and more as has been described. Yes, that further discussion.
I don't know if you did you?
We haven't voted
Yeah.
yet. I'm just a discussion of the motion or anything else. Any other further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? Okay, it's like unanimous vote. Good, and maybe from that perspective. Okay. Any further public comment for the record? Any further public comment? Any further comment from the board?
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you for
Please.
allowing me to be here. And again, I apologize for last week. For everybody here, that I had an emergency. But second of all, I just wanted to say, when I asked about the MACO and what other counties are doing, I think that's important, but I also think we also need to make sure that we're looking at just locally. So I appreciate what you're saying, that you're looking at locally what other I guess different businesses are paying as well as the state, because I know Lewis and Clark gets unfortunately you guys get state pulls more of your folks than anybody else because you're in Helena, right? Helena is such a large state employee base. But I do think we need to make sure that we don't look at all those other counties. Of course, there's a few counties that we need to look at, but not all 56 are experiencing what Lewis and Clark County is experiencing as far as the rise in cost and wages and all that. I met with one of my friends' daughters yesterday, and one of the employers here in town was now changing their hours to 32 hours a week, and that they get paid 40.
Wow.
So very awesome for that, but you know, that's hard to compete with.
Yeah.
That they only have to work Monday through Thursday, but get paid the 40 hours a week. And impressive that the company's willing to do that, but that's the one way of retaining employees. But that's hard to compete with. So anyways, thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. Any other comment? All right, adjourned. Again, appreciate everyone being here. Thank you for your work, and we will stand adjourned. Thank you.